Up next on the MARR Army Rock Show, we're excited to have Brandon Wright back with us. Now, Brandon, I don't know how to introduce singer, DJ, promoter, entrepreneur, philanthropist. You go on about the resume of Brandon Wright. So, but he's got a new single out along with the Veer Union. Slaves to the System came out on August 14th. So, Brandon, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me.
And I guess I should say welcome back. Yeah, it's been a pleasure having you and your band on the show over the years. So, and what you may or may not know is, the Veer Union's been on here many times. They're one of my favorite bands. So, question number one: how does a guy from a band in Western Panhandle or the West Virginia Panhandle hook up with a Western Canadian band to collaborate?
I know it's a really weird mix on how that all happened, but honestly, last year, I believe it was, we played at the Wright in Winchester, which I'm sure you're familiar with, and we opened for the Veer Union, and they came out and watched our sound check, and they were really digging it, and we rocked the show. They gave us some props during the show, bought some of our merch. Like, we got along really well. Everything, it was awesome. Didn't think anything of it. And then, of course, a year later, they hit me up a few months ago and messaged me saying, hey, we got this song that we're going to put out, and we'd really love your style of vocals on it. And so, of course, they sent me the track, and, I went into Jeremy Dove's studio, Darksville Studios, and we rocked it out.
So is this the first collaboration with them, I guess, then, based on that story, right? You haven't really worked with Crispin or any of the guys before, is that correct?
No, we've never done anything with them before, as far as I know. I knew who they were. I've heard their name before, but we've never worked together before.
So when you heard the song, your band has a really one of that sort of that, like, where we combine rap with metal. The whole POD-esque kind of feel to it. Maybe even a lot heavier than POD, probably, really. But Veer Union is a much more melodic band. So was there a discussion? Like, did they just feel that this song meshed for you? Because you really kind of do a rap in the song, right?
Yeah, I do a rap in the verses, and then I sing a little bit of harmonies in the choruses, and of course I do some screaming. But the way that they approached me was basically they literally said, we want your style, quote unquote vocals. They wanted more of like the hip hop feel for the verses, just a more direct approach. And of course I was all about it. POD is one of my favorite bands of all time, so that's like a major influence of what I do. So that's just kind of the way I approached it.
So, with you guys managed to put out a music video. So, with the whole coronavirus thing going, tell us about how the music video came together.
So that was really cool. So they called me from Canada one night, and we talked about how we wanted to do that. And they said they wanted to fly me up to Canada to film it with them in their studio or wherever, and do it, same time, real time. Well, that wasn't going to work due to COVID. It was going to make things really complicated. So I was like, all right, cool. I work at a distillery, but I have access to a 100,000 square foot warehouse that I work in. And I knew Kenny Williams and Andrew Meisenheimer, and they do their own photography and videography. So I hit them up, and they filmed all of my portions of the video. It came out fantastic. And we basically just sent it to them. They mashed it all up, and you can't even tell we're not in the same place.
No, you cannot. And it came out very well. So cool tune, by the way. I love the tune. I love everything about it. Now, I'm getting the sense from some of your own social media posts, you're kind of a little bit blown away by how quick this thing blew up, aren't you?
I'll be honest with you, man. I did not think or expect it to even. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't think it would do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what's the most special thing that's happened so far from it?
Really, to me, what's special is the impact the message is having on people. I think that people are really kind of taking the words in and the lyrics, and they're being impacted by the message. The numbers are cool, great, awesome. We've reached a couple 100,000 views in just a week. That's really great, but the impact of the message is really where it's important to me.
So, just for folks wondering, and maybe if they listen to the show, they already know who you are as far as Defending Cain goes. But what's going on in the Defending Cain camp? Are you guys got some music coming around the corner, or what's up with Defending Cain these days?
Well, undisclosedly, I always try to keep it ambiguous and not say definitely. But yeah, we are, Big J and me and the guys, we're all always working. We are definitely interested in getting back in the studio soon. In fact, I have to go tomorrow and lay some vocals down, and you're going to be hearing some new Defending Cain sometime.
So, man, we got some tough news this week, and I couldn't think of a better person to have on the show. It's kind of funny how small the music world is sometimes. I wanted to get you on the show as soon as I heard the new song, the Very Union song, and then tragically, we heard of the passing of Greg Shiley, and admittedly, I've interviewed Greg. I've met him about a few times, and just been blown away and impressed with the guy. But for anybody who doesn't know Greg Shiley, the West Virginia giant in the music industry, we lost this week, and I thought Brandon I couldn't think of anybody better than Brandon to kind of talk about Greg Shiley and who he was a little bit. So first, you did this on your Facebook, but it was fascinating. Tell me about the first time you met Greg Shiley.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, the first time I met him, it was like the most weird situation ever. Obviously, like I said, we were playing a show at Sweet Caroline's. It was like my second or third show in the band. I was nervous because I wanted to impress the guys, and I didn't know what to expect. We had a big crowd in the room, and I was drinking a ton of alcohol, which was not cool because it ended up affecting my performance later, but whatever. So I go in the restroom, to relieve myself, and there's this little farmer in there, man. He looked like a farmer. He was wearing overalls. He had his little button up, and his little cap, and his glasses. And I didn't think nothing of it. I'm like, all right, cool, we're in Winchester, whatever. So I greeted him because I greet everybody that I see, and I was like, how you doing, sir? And he's like, well, you don't know who I am, He kind of was very matter of fact about it. And I was like, no, I don't. And he's like, well, I'm Greg Shiley, and I'm here to see you guys play. And I was like, oh, well, you know about my band? He's like, oh, hell yeah, I know about your band. And he was like, I'm here to see what you guys can do. I own a Shiley Acres out in West Virginia, and hopefully we'll get to work together. And that was just a really cool way. That's how he was, man. Just so matter of fact.
The more, the first time, so for folks that don't know, Shiley Acres is in the middle of a field. It literally is a farm, and from what I understand, the original shows there that predate me a little bit were just a flatbed pulled up, and they performed and turned into a venue like no other. Can you talk a little bit about the difference that Greg made in how he treated bands compared to the average promoter when you went and played a show?
You know what? For us, I can't really speak for the other bands, but for us, I feel like it was always a feeling of family. He made us feel like we were part of something bigger than we could have ever imagined to even touch. We never thought that we'd even be able to play on a stage like that, and Greg gave us the opportunity, not just once, but like 5 or 6 times, And he was always about the locals. When we worked together on those Blue Blocks breakout shows, Greg was he was that guy that made the locals feel like, okay, you can touch the sky, and here's the guy that can make you get there. You know what I mean? Yeah. It was never presumptuous. It was never this self-righteous aura about it. He was always just down home, just good old Greg.
Now, did you ever get a chance? You played there quite a bit, and I had a chance. I think I actually met you at Shiley Acres the first time I met you in person. To play
I remember that. I remember that time.
I think that's where we met for the first time. And so, do you ever kind of? And I did. Did you ever get a chance to kind of look at as the Nationals came in? As 10 years and hell yeah, and bands like that came in to experience this quite unusual venue. Did you ever have a chance to get a vibe from what some of these Nationals thought coming into such a unique place?
To be honest. It was cool playing with all those guys, but I never ever got to hang out and meet any of them after. The only one I ever saw was Tommy Vext from the Bad Wolves. I never got a perspective on it, but I kind of got the feeling coming into there, they were all kind of weirded out, like, oh, what's this country place? What is this backwoods stuff? And I could tell that their demeanor changed after they left the stage. They realized that West Virginia, that Inwood, came to play, and we were serious about our music, and they respected that.
Yeah, you guys are in a very underrated hotbed of incredible music out there, and which is why we travel all the way from the other side of Pennsylvania to come out there to see stuff, because it's such a great musical community. Now, I'll tell you one of my favorite things about Greg, and I'm going to ask you if you have any one favorite good Greg story you can kind of share with our audience. And mine is just simply from a fan perspective. The first time I went there, I remember, as you said, this little man comes out with his overalls at the end of the show. I didn't really know he was the owner of the property or anything. And just in his kind of West Virginia drawl says, now, if y'all had too much to drink, just spend the night with me here and get in your cars and you can leave in the morning. I thought, what other venue would you ever hear that in? No worries about liability. No worries about it. I want you to go home safe and just stay here on my property for the night. Who would ever say that? But that's one of my favorite little things I'll always remember about that venue. Do you have any kind of favorite one story you'd like to share, or something? I kind of put you on the spot with it, but maybe something comes to mind.
Oh man, I mean, there were so many cool times that Greg, that I had encounters with Greg, and it was just funny. There was a time where he left a voicemail on my phone. Actually, it was about, so he was planning this final show. It was about a month ago. And he called me, but I wasn't able to answer, and he left a voicemail on my phone that is probably the most hilarious thing that me and my guys have ever listened to. And it just was hilarious because he called, and he goes, "Brandon, it's Greg Shiley. It's showtime." And then he just laughed. And then I guess he thought he hung up, but he didn't. And you can hear him talking in the background about all this silly stuff. And it's just so classic Greg, and it's just so awesome. And it was funny. I think that's my favorite memory of him.
Well, we're really going to miss Greg and that venue, and we're a good 4 hours away, so I didn't get there as much as some of your local folks up there, but I know that venue is just loved by people, and the going all the way back to, I guess, my God, the 80s and Kicks playing there and everything else back in the day. So he's going to be missed a lot. So Brandon, man, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today and to reminisce about Greg, and I also just hats off to you for the Slaves to the System single, man. It's awesome, and I didn't mention it at the start, but I'll tell you now, it's going to be in our Golden Dozen this week, so it's made our chart. It made Billboard first, so hey, let's be due diligence here. You guys hit on Billboard before we found you, but man, I appreciate you taking the time, Brandon, and thanks so much for spending some time with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, and you guys are awesome, and keep doing what you do, man.